Tennessee is known for its music, its whiskey, its food, and good old Southern hospitality. But that's just the beginning. From back roads to main streets, we're digging into the people, places, and moments that shape the state. This is Tennessee Unpacked.
Welcome to Tennessee Unpacked. I'm your host, Ryan French, and today I'm joined by Sophia, her first episode with us.
Is. I'm so excited.
Sophia's on my team with Experience Tennessee, and Lexi, you're a veteran at this point. You're back
What
in
up,
the
what
mix.
up?
Been gone for a couple episodes.
Yeah.
But you're back.
I had to make everyone miss me, you know?
Yeah.
You have to keep them wanting more.
Exactly. You've got it.
Yeah, that's speaking of that Jurassic Park social movie.
Yeah. Whatever you got to do to get the attention.
Yeah. I'm glad you're back on because I feel like I can pick on you. When I pick on
great.
McKenna, I'm making fun of myself because all I do is make fun of the way she sounds. But anyway, so today, guys, we got a special guest, a friend of mine, but a lot of people are going to tune in and have seen her stuff online. But when you guys are traveling around Tennessee, you see some old stuff. What's kind of some of your favorite things historic sites that you see?
Me personally, the beauty that architecture really used to be. Like, I feel like you look at, and I'm calling myself out, the house that I live in now, it's a new build. And it's cute. She's fine. But those older houses, like here in Columbia on 6th Street, those houses are absolutely beautiful, and each one is unique in its own way. And I think that's like, and like our guest does, you always wonder what the story is behind anywhere, even in the Mule House. You know, this space has been renovated. So I just think the uniqueness of every single one is what really makes it cool and intriguing.
Yeah. Thank you for doing my job in your answer.
Yeah,
We're
I got your back.
House. I forgot to mention that. Sophia, when you're driving around, what's your favorite things to look at in the back
Well,
roads?
I'm nosy. Yeah. So like I will drive around in neighborhoods. I love to look at
trespass?
Old houses. No trespassing.
Yeah.
Anything is alleged.
You've never like tailgated into a community that's gated?
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
You got to get in there. So I absolutely love our guests' content that she does because it lets me virtually do that without having to actually slam on my brakes in front of all of these houses and annoy the people on the roads.
Saves you from a couple broken necks.
Exactly.
So we'll keep alluding to it. We'll bring Amy in. Amy, welcome to the show. Amy Edmiston, you are the brains behind Pretty Old Places, as if you will, the brains. You're the video camera, the brains, the drone. You're all of it.
Yeah, all of it. The research.
The research.
Yeah.
So,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And like I was telling them, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I reached out to you. I was like, your stuff is really cool. How do we tie it into tourism?
Yeah.
But where did Pretty Old Places come from? How did you get started?
Well, I feel like everything started in 2020. Is that a thing?
It's a new world.
I feel like everything sort of like, like everyone looked around, and I started documenting cemeteries in 2020 for Find a Grave. Shout out to Find a Grave if you know what that is. It's really helpful in research. And so I was volunteering, just kind of, you can social distance really well in a cemetery. So we would just, get out and stretch our legs and walk and check out cemeteries. And on the way, a lot of cemeteries are on back roads. So I would take back roads, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see that church? Did you see that house? And so I'd started taking pictures of them, and my camera roll kind of got really full. And I was like, I wonder if other people love this too. And so, Instagram was a thing. And when you have a lot of time, you just kind of start an Instagram, and had thought about a name. And I'm kind of a big thing, like titles are a thing. I want to make sure it's like the right name, and Pretty Old Places came to me, and I was like, that is it. Yeah. That is the one. And so I started it, and the rest is history.
Well, it's kind of like a play on words a little bit, like pretty old places and then pretty old places. Like I thought about that yesterday, and I'm like, that's so cool that you can like kind of use both.
It reminds me, have you seen the PetSmart thing about where he's like, is it pet smart, or are you saying it's a mart for pets?
I literally sang that song across my house, and my husband was like,
gosh.
please stop.
Oh my gosh, I love
Enough.
that song. Amazing. Anyways, but yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, people probably think the same thing about pretty old places.
Yeah. Well, we can
So
we
what's the
can
right
give them
answer?
the answer right here.
Oh my gosh, I would say pretty old places.
Yeah.
Which that makes the most sense.
Because you're finding
Right.
the beauty
Yeah.
of the old places.
Right.
Right.
But they are pretty old too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we started, so Experience Tennessee, we started the ambassador program 2022,
Yeah.
and you had signed up for that, which I was just like, what is she thinking? And her following is way too big already. but I had already been following you for a little while, and you dive into not just, you know, the beauty of the places, but the history of it too. That's what fascinates me. I'm a history buff or nerd. I say buff, but I'm not a buff because a history buff knows a lot about it. I'm just a nerd about it. I want to hear more. But where did specifically, I guess, your love for pretty old houses come from? Because you focus on a plethora of things, but houses and architecture, and that's kind of a focus of yours. Where did that passion come from?
yeah. Well, I think just history in general. My family, when I was growing up, like they would always drag us to like historic sites and, you know, battlefields and museum houses and things like that. And, you know, of course, when you're little, you're like, oh, you know, I hate this, you know.
Great trip, Mom.
Right. So fun,
School.
you know. But I think it was being implanted then, kind of my love for history then. And as I grew up, like, as you mature, you start appreciating things a little bit more, like especially history and the stories behind things. So I feel like I started to appreciate and actually understand a little more about architecture, and that like the craftsmanship is nothing like today. And
Absolutely.
I just kind of locked onto old houses. So yeah.
And I know you mentioned the research behind it, which I know you share a lot of the stories about these places that you visit. So what does that research look like? Because I can only imagine. I mean, you visit places sometimes and they look cool, and then it can be really hard to go back and find what this was or who lived here, what it was like in its prime. And so what does that process look like for you?
Yeah. Well, talk about being a nerd. I'm like the largest nerd you'll ever know. Like, I mean, my husband can attest to that, that I will just talk about these things forever. But I typically will find a house first and then research it, because obviously I don't have time to do it before. And sometimes I don't even know I'm going to find a house. So then based on location and address, the National Register is usually somewhere I go for information. And sometimes I have to take a trip down to the actual deeds office and like trace a deed back, because that's a really good way to know who lived in a home. So yeah, and a lot of like investigative work online too. So
I know you said you stumble across houses sometimes. Do people ever reach out to you and like request for you to feature their home or?
Yeah, I have gotten that some, and I'm actually trying to work a little bit now with realtors.
Okay.
To feature old homes that are for sale.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because, you
That's
know, one
awesome.
way to preserve is to make sure you get it in the hands of other people who love old homes, and someone who's not going to tear it down or, you know, make
exactly.
it look completely different.
Right.
So yeah, actually just worked with a realtor. It was pretty exciting in Petersburg about a really old house, and it's for sale. And they gave me a tour, and I got to feature. And I'm still working on its history, but that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I always thought that I saw a little bit of is it the Moore
Homestead. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was brilliant. It, to me, a lot of times when those properties come up for sale, you know, they say, oh, it was built such and such, but they don't dive into like the actual history of the property. I think the value is in knowing that as well.
Right.
So I thought that was a cool spin.
Yeah.
Was there, so this is a little bit of a hobby, obviously has to be, right? I mean, but is there a moment, is there like one house or one project where you're like, you know what, I have a bigger vision for this than it being a hobby?
What do you mean, like?
Is there one house that you find, like one property that you featured early on, and you said, I'm gonna keep doing this and post? I don't know how many posts you've made now, but what was that first post that made you think, I'm gonna keep doing this? This is a passion I've got.
Well, one particular, I think it was like one of my first couple of posts. It's one I had stumbled upon. I think it was in like Las Casas. I believe it was the Dement house. And I just remember coming up on that house and being like, this is incredible. And I wonder if, you know, the people who pass by this house every single day, like, I wonder if they know about the history of this home. So when I went home and researched it, I was like, what do I do with this? Like, do I put this in a post? Like, are people going to read this? You know, what do I do? And because this was still also new to me. So I shared the history. And then there were people who were like, I pass this home all the time, and I had no idea that was its story. You know, thank you for sharing this. And that really like fueled me to keep doing that. So, cool. Yeah.
All right. You're watching Tennessee Unpacked. I'm Ron French with Sophia and Lexi. Today, we are joined by Amy Edmiston and Pretty Old Places. Amy, we talked a little bit about how you got started, your love for pretty old houses, the name Pretty Old Houses. But when you're deciding what's worth sharing, because like you said, you had that moment like, are people going to read this? Have you figured that out? Or when you're deciding what's worth sharing, what's that process? You just put it out there and see what people like?
Yeah, I mean, people let you know pretty quickly what they like. I don't have to do a lot of digging on that, but and what they don't like, actually. But no, I feel like I kind of do what I want, really. I mean, if I see a house and it, like, my jaw drops, like, that's immediately I know that's going to be posted. And but sometimes, really, like, even the ones that are like falling apart, ones that are, you know, you wouldn't expect, sometimes they have a story that is worth sharing too. So I can't just immediately discount every house. And I have a lot of houses, so it's hard to like decide sometimes, but eventually all of them will get shared, I think. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite type of architectural style? Or
I would have to say a Queen Anne Victorian. And I'm not like an architectural expert by any means. In fact, like, as I post them, I'm learning just like everyone else. But Queen Anne Victorian, just because my husband says I can spot a turret from a mile away, like, because I love those. And I love, you know, that frilly little lacy gingerbread. Oh my gosh, that is my favorite thing. And then another thing that I really love architecture wise is like the peaks, the gables, I think they're Gothic, but around here in Tennessee, we have a ton of those. Yeah. And it seems like they're around every corner. Yeah. But
I know you said, did you call it turret?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's correct me if I'm wrong, is that the cone part of it? You posted one recently that had one of those, like, over on the left-hand side.
Yes.
My jaw dropped, and I immediately thought, like, my first thought is like, this is beautiful in the picture. I can only imagine it in person. I feel like that would be the hardest part about what you do is, like, yes, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but like the camera can never really truly capture like that moment the way that we see it in real time.
Oh my gosh. If you could see me, I would sometimes wish, like, and my husband's been trying to do this more, but if you could see me in front of these places sometimes. And that day when that picture, I know what house you're talking about, that was in Savannah, Georgia. The day that I was standing in front of that house, there was a woman who was working in the window of the house next door. And I know that she was used to it because she didn't pay me any attention. Me just standing out there gawking at this house and taking pictures nonstop.
She's like, oh, another fan.
Another
day.
She's totally used to it. So
that's awesome. No, that one was beautiful. I mean, they're all beautiful, but that one I remember, like, it stuck in my brain. Yeah, it lives rent-free. Yeah.
So, like, this is obviously a travel podcast, so I want to touch on, what are some of your favorite Tennessee, specifically towns that you find these houses in, specifically like the Queen Anne Victorians, your favorite ones? Where are your favorite places to hunt for those?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Tennessee has so many good ones. Okay, well, not just because we're here, but Columbia is like one of my top ones.
Stop.
It's, oh my gosh, so many, and they've done such a good job restoring them, and it's just, there's so many. 6th Street, you mentioned earlier, is one of my favorite streets ever, and then I'd say Fayetteville is another one. Yeah. I love some Fayetteville. Absolutely. Like these towns are ones that I can just get out and like stroll through and take pictures and just, you know, really enjoy. I'd say Mount Pleasant's another one. Murray County's got a lot apparently, but it's awesome. And Pulaski.
Checking off all those South Central.
I know. I do love we're doing good.
What else you got?
Well, and selfishly, I love hearing you talk about Columbia and the historic homes in Columbia because being in tourism, obviously, we focus on all of our historic sites. So like the Polk Home and Elm Springs and the Athenaeum. But it's really cool what you do because you're bringing those stories to life that aren't necessarily talked about all the time. Yeah. So I think that's really special. Like you said, because people that are local are like, oh, I had no idea, and I drive past it every day. But also for our tourists, like they're getting to see a more personal and authentic side of Columbia through the history that you're sharing with those homes.
Right. That's kind of a passion of mine. I've told Ryan that before, that, you know, I love what the cities are doing to really get the word out about the historic sites and things, but I'm kind of like the person who's like, let me find what's not talked about. Let me find those little gems that people don't know about and share those so that they can, you know, it's like the icing on the cake.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
I think there's such a craving in like travel and with tourists and those like human stories and those behind the scenes looks. And I think that what you do really dives into that. And I feel like that is something that isn't always covered when you think about traveling somewhere, but it's important. It's something I love when I'm traveling.
Right. Yeah.
I know we've had this conversation before, but like a lot of the historic sites or historical properties, I think of like a Century Farm, for example. What using social media as a vehicle to tell these stories now actually makes it an attraction in a way that maybe before it couldn't be because there's not access to that property. You just can't walk up to his, Century Farm and be like, hey, I'm here for the Century Farm. Right. Like how have your followers taken to not just looking at your content, but then actually going out and exploring that content? Have you seen what kind of follow up do you get from them about going out and seeing these places for themselves?
It reminds me of a comment I got recently that just like shocked my socks off. I was like, wow, this woman, it was one of the sweetest I've ever received. And she said something to the effect of, I love your houses so much and your content. And because of that, I'm going on a cross country trip, and I've now made a map and plan to go to these cities because of your posts.
Wow.
That is so cool. And such a compliment to what you're doing.
I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, it just made me so happy because that's exactly why I do it, you know. I know that everybody can't do that. Everybody can't go out and see them. But the ones that can, it makes me excited to think that just from seeing that post that they were like, hey, I'm going to go there. Yeah. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's just interesting to me. You bring up Fayetteville. Like I've said this to my staff. I've probably, as a team, we sit down. I've wore them out with this. It's like there's so much opportunity to tell these stories, to kind of uncover these houses, but then that does translate into visitation. Like how do you bridge that? You're a perfect example of how to bridge that. Like that has made a big difference. If you were not across country, but if you were advising someone coming to Tennessee that did want to look at these places, like what have you ever said, like, here's a couple rules that you want to follow when you do go? Because I remember one, like you posted an old church and I was like, is this between such and such? Because you didn't put the location, because you do protect these properties as well. What would be like some advice or rules that you would give people that want to go out and kind of explore these?
Well, I know starting in like the small towns, starting out in like Bell Buckle or War Trace or these small towns, and then that's kind of like a hub. That's usually kind of where I start, and then just hit the back roads from there, and you never know what you're gonna come across. Yeah.
Just get out and drive.
Yeah. I often will put into my GPS when I'm on the way somewhere. I always turn it off freeways, like avoid highways, and like I hardly. In fact, when I'm trying to actually get somewhere on time, I always forget, and I'm like, "Why is this going to take 7 hours? Like, it doesn't make any sense." But
what's so funny is every time I put something in my GPS and it gives me the option to avoid highways, I'm like, why would anybody want to do that? Why would they want to take longer? Well, now I know.
Yeah.
It's for me. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things when we get out and explore, I bring this up all the time, but I've got a whole bunch of kids, and we do a lot of just weekends. I'm like, come on, we're going for a ride, and they're like, no, and people are like, why are they reacting that way? I'm like, well, because our rides turn out to be 5.5 hour long rides.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. I actually just recently, I don't know, you had a drone in the air, so I didn't bother you, but I recently just did a train, a railroad. I explored railroads all the way from Cowan, ended up in Bell Buckle, and with my 5-year-old, which I actually pacified him because choo-choo trains. But we get into War Trace, and we go to the Walking Horse Museum, and I come out and like Amy's got a drone in the air, and I'm like, I'm not going to bother her. She's doing your work. But what is your skill set had to? I mean, I can't imagine you were a drone pilot and a photographer when you started this. I mean, were those skills that you already had and you applied, or how have you developed your photography and video making?
Yeah, well, I mean, social media itself has really evolved over time. When I first started, Instagram was like just pictures.
Yeah,
so it was easy. You didn't have to worry about as much, and then it evolved into, now you have to do reels and video.
Video is king.
Yes. And so I'm like, now I'm a videographer.
Add it to the resume.
I'm like, I'll figure that out, and then as I kept doing that, I mean, and of course I'm like, I love challenges, ones that made me crazy. And so then I was like, how cool would these old houses be from the air? I mean, because especially with all the angles that they have and things like that. And I was like, I'm going to go get my remote drone pilot license, and that requires a test at an airport.
Yeah.
So, that was the first time I've taken a test since probably college, and I was very scared, but I passed.
You
did it. and it wasn't actually near as difficult as I expected, and I really enjoy it. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, and I think one thing, like you were saying when you started, it was pictures. And pictures are great. I still love pictures. I mean, my whole part of my job is social media, so I live in video all day. But pictures, capturing that moment in time is still, I think, really important, really special. But like you said, reels are the thing now. And I think my opinion, the reason behind that is because it allows someone to feel like they're experiencing something more.
Yeah.
And they are actually more involved with it.
Yeah.
So the fact that, though, you chased that skill of being able to fly a drone, to be able to see another angle of the houses or whatever it is that you're showcasing, I think that's so cool, because it really does make that person be able to experience it a little bit more than they can with a photo.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And one other thing that I've picked up recently was a 360 camera. Whatever you can't fly a drone, there's all kinds of rules for drones. So
I can only imagine.
Yeah, but a 360 camera on a 9-foot pole works
Wow.
almost
Yeah.
the same.
Foot.
Wow.
9 foot. Now that's another reason there needs to be video of me behind the scenes because it is
Yeah.
quite comical.
So now
with
I'm
me
expecting
and-
I
I'm
need some
expecting
behind
a
the scenes.
bloopers reel.
Yeah.
now at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Just keep that thing put away during lightning storms.
Yeah.
That would be not
Don't
behind
point
the
it
scenes.
up.
Yeah, right.
You're listening to Tennessee Unpacked. We're sitting down with Pretty Old Places and Amy Edmiston. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee Unpacked. We are talking to Amy Edmiston of Pretty Old Places right here in a pretty old place, Sophia, in the Mule House.
Yes, in Columbia. Amy, I have a question for you. You seem like a very adventurous person from what we've talked about so far, you know, taking the back roads, learning new skills like drone footage. What are some of the most unexpected things that you found on these back roads?
There's this one house. It is one that always sticks out in my mind. In fact, I call it the one.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
I'm seated for this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm-
One evening, we were on the back roads and the sun was setting. And about this time is usually about the time I'm giving up that, you know, I'm losing light. I don't think I'm going to find anything. And we round this corner and come into view of this incredible Victorian old house. And it has double porches and beautiful gingerbread everywhere. And it just blew my mind because I had not expected to find it. And I'd never seen it. And it was on a road that I'm pretty sure I've been close by before. So I ended up getting out of the car and I'm like taking pictures, of course. And a guy comes to his mailbox nearby. And I'm like, I have got to go over here and ask him about this house. So I walk over there and I always wonder, do people think I'm a kook? Like, do they think I'm crazy? I mean, I tried not to look that way, but I know sometimes I do because I'm like, oh my gosh, look
I
at this house.
promise I'm normal.
Yeah, exactly. But so I went over there and I was like, hey, you know, you live near this house. What's the story with this? And he said, well, this is in my family. This is one of our family homes. And he said, this was in Daniel Boone's family for 7 generations.
Wow.
We're the 7th generation to have it. And it was actually much older than it looked. They had just added on, and that was its current appearance from like the early 1900s. And he said that there was a doctor that lived there that worked out of a shop in the front.
Oh, cool.
And it was still
Wow.
there. And
Wow.
that they had found like receipts from the doctor's office. And there was one receipt that said he had assisted a woman with childbirth for $1.
$1.
my God.
$1. I don't remember what year it was, right? I was like, I was just like, what, you know? And he was very kind to share all this information with me. This was in Lincoln County, by the way. I won't give his exact location, but man, it really, and so ever since then, I have just been like, that's the one that always sticks in my mind because I hadn't been
Absolutely.
looking for it, totally unexpected. And then it had this incredible story.
It was looking for
So-
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It needed you.
Yes.
Can't imagine how much more money I would have after 5 kids if births were $1.
Right. Yeah. Retweet.
I don't know if you want to know the practices that were going on for $1 birth.
Yeah, I was
so.
going to say.
Right, back in the day, too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What is when I know that story? What do you take away from this when you interact with property owners? What's rewarding from highlighting something that they have? Because you know this guy tells you the story. All this was Daniel Boone's, and it's in 7th generation. Like, what do you feel like you're giving them an outlet to tell those stories? I'm not articulating this the right way, but do you see that excitement in those people? We're like, oh, you're interested in this? Like,
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. I get that a lot. In fact, the majority of times I've only ever had like maybe 2 negative interactions ever. And most of them, I mean, people are eager. They're eager to tell the story of their homes, especially when they've like worked really hard on it and they're excited to be a part of its history.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one time I had been to, I think it was Decatur, Alabama, and there's a house that I really love there. And I had been to it before, but I came back to it and I ran into the owner and she invited me in. And of course, once again, I'm telling you, I'm like a fan girl whenever I go to these houses and they invite me in. I am just like, you know, and so she let me in and walked me around and showed me everything. And she was so excited to tell me every little detail about it, you know, and I'm the type that will listen forever. So, you know, my husband was waiting in the car, bless him. But it was incredible to be able to tour that home and let her share that story.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and what you obviously do most of the time is you share the outside. And I can only imagine that you're kind of sitting there. It'd be hard not to start to try and visualize what the inside might look like too, because there's beauty in that in itself. Like, what is your feelings whenever when you get to walk into a house? Like, are you ever shocked? Like when you walk in, like it looks different than you thought it would, or does it always tend to look better? Like, how do you kind of feel whenever you walk in?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's always better. Like, I don't think I've ever been into one where they've like modernized it too much or anything.
Yeah.
Almost every single time I'm always like absolutely in shock. And I think I love to be able to share the inside because I don't get to do that often. So when I do, I'm like extra giddy.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
You're like, we have a bonus this time.
Yeah. I'm always so grateful that people don't think I'm crazy and they're like, hey, you know, you actually do care, you know?
Yeah.
And they're usually pretty shocked that I don't know, a youngin', like the older people especially, are like, a youngin' cares about history, you know?
Well, that sets up my next question perfect then. Why do you think it's so important to preserve this history? Because to me, like, we were talking on I was having a conversation with somebody recently in archives, and it's like we're still learning so much about history. Like you're only exposed to so much that are in the history books or in the educational component. But why is it so important to preserve the history of these homes to you?
I would say because they're fading. They're fading pretty quickly. I mean, it's incredible how many we're losing, and the only way to keep them alive is to keep, you know, their history alive. And I think to share their stories is like to connect with them. You know, it's like sometimes when I'm researching and I find out information, I feel like I like know the family that lived there almost. Yeah. And I see that house differently. And I mean, even if it's just like a circa date, like a build date, you know, I feel connected to the house just for knowing something about it, you know, and I want others to know that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think
love
that's
that.
so special. I have to know, do you, when you visit these places, whether you get invited in or not, do you take home like home decor inspiration? Do you file away these things that you see in your head and take them home with you?
I would like to make my house look like a lot of other people's houses.
Oh, that is something I was curious about, and you reminded me of it. Obviously, I'm not asking where you live. That is not what I'm asking. But do you yourself live in a historic home? Or would you ever like to if you don't now?
I do. Yes. It's one of those that has been heavily renovated. Okay. So it still has a lot of its historic charm. That's why I wanted to move there, but it has been kind of tampered, the historic parts of it. I would love to live in one though that is like really well historically accurate one day, but yeah, I live in Bell Buckle, so it is
so cute.
It's
cozy.
We're surrounded by beautiful old houses there, so
that is why I'm wearing my RC Color Blue today.
Small plug.
I'm always representing. So I can't imagine that when you started, that you would have thought this has taken you to all these different places. How far, besides Tennessee, where else have you went in the country looking for pretty old places? Because I've seen some posts from some wild place from out there.
Yeah. I never would have thought I would be like driving just to look at houses, places. That's crazy. I haven't been as far as I'd like to go, but Virginia, that's a good one. We just recently went there, and New Orleans, like, oh my gosh, like that's a good one.
Oh,
and,
I bet.
Yeah. Like all kinds of places in South Carolina. I haven't gone a lot west though, so I'm interested to see. But I'll be real, Tennessee has got some good stuff, and
that's what we wanted to hear.
It's true. Whenever I go to these other places, like I did go to Missouri not too long ago.
Hey, that's where I'm from.
Yeah, well, when I was surprised though when I got there that like I could tell I had left Tennessee. I don't know. It was just different.
Oh, it is,
Like,
and you wouldn't think it is because it's like neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Different world. I remember, because I'm from Southeast Missouri, and I remember when we drove across the river, my husband said, "Why can I see so far? It's flat." If you've never been to Southeast Missouri, it is not Tennessee, and it makes sure you know it.
Yeah, that's like West Tennessee, where I'm originally from. It's the same way over there too. But yeah, there's just like no place like Tennessee.
When you vacation, like say you're just going somewhere not to look at houses.
Yeah.
But do you like do your research, or like do you plan to venture out for a few hours one day to go look for houses?
Oh, of course.
Got to. You got to scratch the itch.
My family knows. Like at this point, like even for Christmas, we went out of town for a whole week for Christmas, and there was one day I was like, "Sorry, y'all, I gotta hit the road." Sometimes they go, sometimes they don't, and if they don't, it's nice to enjoy some quiet for a little bit.
Do they enjoy it, or is it kind of like you when you were little and you're like, "Oh my goodness, what are we doing?"
I think it's kind of a mix of both.
Yeah.
My older daughter, she does love to, like, if there's an abandoned house involved, like if there's any like peeking or anything, which I don't do a lot of that, but she always I'm allegedly a rule follower. I'm a rule follower. But she's like, let's just peek, so yeah.
That's fun.
What as you've been doing this, when you tell people what you're doing, how much more are you recognized now? Like, oh, you're pretty old places. Like, I know you get that.
I mean, if I tell them who I am, I'm not so on the other side of the camera so much now. Like I'm working on that.
Here we are.
Right.
This is the start.
Yeah. Thank y'all. I'm really trying to work on it though, because that is something, talk about evolving, that I'm realizing that people kind of do want to know a little bit more about who's like doing this.
They feel more connected.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to come out from behind the camera a little bit more. And so, but yeah, if I just mention pretty old places, usually people are like, "That's you? What?" So
that was like me fangirling when Ryan said, "Yeah, we're having pretty old places." And I was like, "Oh, yes." Thank you.
What I think is funny about that is like, I get to know, I know you as Amy, like, right. But I do say that. I say pretty old places. Kind of the same thing. We had that conversation with Remy Waters. If you introduce Remy Waters, like, you're like, vintage Remy. Oh my God. There's this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So for people that don't know, where do we go to follow you? Where's the best way to connect with you and what you're doing?
Well, on Facebook, Pretty Old Places. On Instagram, Pretty Old Places. I'm on TikTok now.
Ooh,
on Pretty Old Places. Yes.
Dancing, or you just...
Oh, I haven't done a dance.
You should do trending dances in front of the houses. There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you'll have your Jurassic Park outside the house.
Yeah, look at the house.
Yes, and I do have a website, prettyoldplaces.com.
Very cool. All right. Thanks again for Amy for being here. You've been listening to Tennessee Unpacked. See us next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Tennessee Unpacked podcast. Be sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review. Until next time, we'll see you on the next one.